I'm interested in this topic, and it seems to me that both arguments here are about how to expeditiously get us to the point that we want to be. I don't necessarily know why this is a Republican or Democrat issue, and I hope it's not. I like commissions in which we cannot determine who nominated the person who serves. It doesn't seem to me that this commission is getting back to the days that I despise, in which the commission could not get along at all. And there's nothing wrong with having disagreement. I generally think that, that Commissioner Pai has been thoughtful. The goal of finding this solution expeditiously and responsibly seems to be shared by all. The conversation about litigation, I can't tell who has the best argument about where litigation is most likely to result. And knowing lawyers, and you all being lawyers, my guess is all the circumstances result in litigation. The question is, a challenge is, and Senator Coons and Senator Kennedy and I can certainly agree on the difficulty of getting Congress to legislate on something that we understand and is simplified. This would be a tremendous challenge for us to make decisions, and I regret saying that. It really ought to be more congressional involvement, not less. But Commissioner Pai, Chairman Pai, I've sponsored legislation, the 5G Spectrum Act, with Senator Wicker and Senator Thune. It similarly addresses the issue as the commission is doing to date. And so I want to move on to something that matters to me as well. But I'm interested in continuing the conversation that the chairman is pursuing on how best we accomplish the goal of getting 5G to America as quickly as possible and reducing the risks of litigation that would delay that. I want to pick up on what the two commissioners on the right side of the table, right to me, talked about. It's the maps. The maps have been an issue of mine since I first saw them. I can see them as I drive my state and recognize how flawed they are. I think it's a mistake to make decisions with flawed data. I worry that once the money's spent in the wrong place, we've invested incorrectly, then we're looking for more money because we still have the problem we were intending to solve. I want to focus my comments on this data question, at least this morning, on the issue of, well, first of all, I would say Congress has legislated, and I would expect maybe that this month the Broadband Data Act will become law. And hopefully that is a process by which the maps are fixed. I want to talk a moment, though, about the 5G fund. The Commission announced that a 5G fund would replace the mobility fund. This is an opportunity, I think, to collect more reliable data, ultimately to succeed where the mobility fund failed, and to meet the mandate for the better data found in the Broadband Data Act. Let me, I suppose, address this to the chairman. Can I have a commitment to updating the underlying coverage data for the unsubscribed 4G LTE mobile service before determining the eligible areas for the new 5G fund?
Well, Senator, thank you for the question. We are going to be looking at a notice of proposed rulemaking with respect to the 5G fund that tees up all of the questions you've identified with respect to determining eligible areas, allocating funding accordingly, and the like. At the same time, we are always looking to update the 4G-related maps that we have. And so the two are separate but important initiatives to make sure that we understand where coverage is and where it is not. And the reason why we scrapped the Mobility Fund too, which of course, as you know, targeted 4G, is precisely the reason. It's one thing to have coverage in Olathe and Overland Park. By the time you get to Iola, Frontenac, and Parsons, you realize that map is not necessarily accurate. So we didn't want to build on top of that flawed structure. We wanted to create a new structure that was far more accurate and granular.
Well, my colleagues and I sent to you and others a letter yesterday on this topic asking that you work with us in getting the, to address our concerns related to 5G fund. Let me, Mr. Chairman, if I can, ask the commissioners, both Commissioner Starks and Commissioner Rosenworcel talked about this issue. What do I need to know about where we are on flawed data and how it's being used?
Thank you for the question, Senator. You're absolutely right. We need maps before money and data before deployment. The American public would be shocked to find that we're giving out billions and billions of dollars to improve broadband and to improve wireless services without having any grasp of where service is and is not in this country. You can't manage problems you don't accurately measure, and it's time for the FCC's measurement activities to improve. They need to come first.
And are we doing that?
No, candidly, we're not. Right now, we are about to give out $16 billion for broadband without first fixing our maps. We have it exactly backwards. We're doing it in what looks a lot more like a broadband publicity stunt than true policy. If it was true policy, we would go and fix the maps. You would take those maps back to everyone in your states, and you would ask the public to challenge them. So we know with accuracy and granularity where service is and is not. We're not doing that now.
Chairman, I wouldn't mind hearing from Commissioner Carr, but my time is well spent.
Thank you, Senator. I think, maps before money has some alliteration to it, but it's not good policy. Here's why. We know already where there is not coverage. So what we've done is a two-phase approach. Phase one, those areas where we know, where our maps are right, that there's no service, let's get money there right now. Not tomorrow, not next week, because a connection makes a huge difference in someone's life. For those areas where our maps aren't good at differentiating where there's service and where there's not, let's do a deep dive, let's fix that problem, which is what we're doing, and that's going to be the phase two process. But when we know where there's good coverage with the maps today, let's get moving. I'm from Virginia. I could drive there today with no map. I've never been to Parsons, Kansas. I'd have to wait for a map to go there, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't go where we already have maps that are accurate.
Senator, if I could jump in, I know that you asked to hear my opinion as well, if I may. In particular, based upon the 16 out of $20 billion is going to go out the door under what we know are 477 maps that are deeply flawed. And so I do have grave concerns that we are going to get a supermajority of the money out the door based upon data that we know is flawed. And the real fundamental issue there is that if one household is served on a census block, then that whole area is considered served. The second problem that I really see with 477 data is that we ask, where could you serve as a provider rather than where do you serve right now? We need to know actually where people serve. Okay.
Could you wrap up for me, Mr.
Yes, yes, Mr. And so I do also have serious concerns about a significant amount of money getting out of the door based upon bad data.
Okay.